Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on this episode of NYSOFA's SNAP-Ed Ask the Expert Nutrition Edition. Today, we're going to talk about fruits and vegetables. It's one of my favorite subjects, especially this time of year. All my favorite fruits and vegetables are in season this time of the year, June, July, and August. So I also get to try all sorts of new ones too. So little time and so much to enjoy. Today, I have two of our SNAP-Ed nutrition educators from New York City as our experts. And I'm going to let them introduce themselves.
Cool. I'll go first. Hi, everyone. My name is Elisa Dinzes, and I am a registered dietitian and the SNAP-Ed coordinator in New York City. And I have the privilege of working with three awesome nutrition educators down in New York City. And we have one of them with us today, Priyana.
Hi, everyone. Hi, my name is Priyana, and I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I'm very happy to be here with you today.
Great. And I'm Lisbeth Irish. I'm a registered dietitian. I'm a nutrition consultant for NYSOFA, New York State Office for the Aging. And I'm going to start off by asking you both, if you were stranded on a desert island, what would be the one fruit or vegetable you could not live without? Oh, no, that's a surprise question.
Yeah.
I think mine would be raspberries. I love them. Absolutely love them. You could put them on anything and I would eat them pretty much. And my favorite vegetable, though I think it's really classified as an herb, would be cilantro. You could put cilantro in anything and I would eat it.
I think I would have to say cantaloupe for fruit would be my favorite. I feel like it's just, when they're juicy and sweet and they're delicious. So I would say cantaloupe. And also you can pair it with things like cottage cheese, but you can also pair it with like salty things too.
Mm-hmm.
So like a little bit of both. So cantaloupe, and for vegetables, I would say cauliflower is definitely my favorite. Roasted cauliflower with a little bit of garlic and oil. It's delicious.
Yeah. I have to say cantaloupe is not my favorite. It's one of the few I'm not crazy about, but I like the other melons.
Mm-hmm.
And Priyana, what about you? What do you think? What are the ones you couldn't live without?
So I'm going to be a little greedy. I am crazy about fruits. So I love apples, especially the Fuji apples you get from Asian supermarket. They're so sweet. I actually have them for lunch almost every day, especially back in the days when I work in the hospital, you don't have that much time. So having apple and some kind of protein together really fill me up for the whole day. But I cannot live without mangoes and watermelon.
Oh,
I'm just gonna be happy.
Yeah.
To say I kind of go with you on both of those too, or all of those. Well, I see we have a question in the chat box already. I just want to let our audience know that if you have questions or you want to let us know what your favorite fruits and vegetables are, just put them right in the chat box. Our first question is, what are the best kinds of fruits and vegetables for grilling?
So I can start because so I live in the suburbs, and in the burbs, we do a lot of grilling in the spring and the summertime. And I'm always putting vegetables on the grill because I kind of feel like, well, if my husband's doing the grilling, then like I might as well, all I have to do is cut up vegetables and let him cook those too. And so it's like I feel like it kind of like gives me a break, especially in the spring and the summer.
Yep.
With cooking. So on the grill for vegetables, I love to put bell peppers, like red, orange, yellow bell peppers, because you can cut them and like keep them in big chunks. It's really great on the grill. You can cut them in thick, long ways, so they go on the grill nice and get some nice grill marks. Portobello mushrooms are great on the grill. Just stick the whole cap right on the grill, get some nice grill marks. As far as fruit, I would say the only fruit that I really put on the grill is pineapple.
Mm.
You can grill up some pineapples, delicious on the grill.
Yeah. Priyana, do you have any ideas on that subject?
I second everything she said. We both live in the herb, like we're not no longer in New York City. So pineapple and mushrooms are my favorite things. I don't know how tomato goes, but sometimes I would like, just put a like tomato very quickly just to get the sauce in some of the meat. So that may work well too.
Yeah. I think one of my favorites is the yellow squash, the summer squash, that kind of look like a zucchini, but not really. They're yellow, the summer squash. I love those even more than zucchini on the grill. I put a little bit of like Italian dressing on there, just a brush, and it kind of gives them a little extra flavor. And interestingly enough, at the end of this month, the end of next month, I'm sorry, in July, Wendy Beckman, one of our NYSOFA registered dietitians, is going to be doing a food demo on grilling fruit. And actually, I helped her set that up, and she's going to be grilling things like watermelon and pineapple, pears and peaches. And I think there was one more. Banana.
Oh, grilled banana?
Yeah. So I'm really excited to find out how that's going to turn out.
Cool.
But yeah, I mean, I did a little research and people said that, that's really some of the best fruits to grill. Any kind of melon, I guess. You could try your cantaloupe on there.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. We have another question that says, any suggestions for people with GERD and bad heartburn?
So I find just in reference to that, the peppers, like the red, the yellow, and the orange, don't contribute as much to GERD and heartburn as the green peppers do. So I sometimes suffer from bad heartburn, but I find the green peppers contribute to that, and the red, the yellow, and the orange, not so much.
Yeah, and I didn't realize until I was probably well into my 20s that green peppers are unripe peppers. So they're not, fully ripened, and that's probably why they give us more problems. I cannot eat green peppers without some results that aren't necessarily great. They repeat on me for hours. But if I eat red peppers or Angel, which are really ripened, I don't have any of those problems. I eat red peppers like they're going out of style. I dip them in hummus. It's like one of my favorite lunches.
Yeah, so I do have something to say about that, about GERD. In general, like you kind of know like what you cannot tolerate because everyone's kind of different. The common ones are chocolate, coffee, anything with acid, right? But I do find that one of the tips that I used to give to patients is make sure you don't eat at least 2 hours before you go to bed, or don't lie down, because that would make a big difference. And just small frequent meals, don't go hungry, don't go too full. There are some flare-ups, but usually once you follow all the tips exactly for at least 2 weeks, it should get better with medications as well.
I agree. I did medical nutrition therapy before I came to be part of the NYSOFA team. And many times heartburn and GERD were more from the volume of what the person ate than the actual food. Sometimes when we have a food repeat on us or give us problems, whatever we taste is what we think caused the problem, and not necessarily the case. Sometimes it's the volume you're eating, or maybe it's a high fat meal that you had the fruit or vegetable with. And the fat content slows digestion down, just like a large volume slows digestion down. And that's sometimes why we get this extra stomach acid. Sometimes it's not actually the food that we attribute the GERD and heartburn to that's causing the problem.
It can also be chewing. So we tend to not chew our food enough. And it always amazes me when I tell people, try chewing each mouthful 25 chews and see how you do. Right now, not saying that every meal, every bite I chew 25 chews, that's a lot, but I try to make an effort to chew at least the first few bites that much, because when you think about it, you have teeth that are there. Their sole purpose is to break down that food. And if you don't use them, once you swallow the food, like your body has to figure out how to break down and digest that food. So it's going to produce more acid in order to break down that food.
Exactly.
So the more you chew, not only do you break down your food more, it also slows it down. So you don't get that like huge amount, like you said, like eating too much.
Yeah, you're giving your stomach a head start, so it doesn't have to make lots of acid to digest the food. You're helping by mechanically breaking it down. Yep. Yep. Let's see. Grilled fruit tastes great, but I believe it enhances the sugar in them. Is this true? What do you think about that?
So, that's an interesting question. I don't really know 100% the answer. So if Elizabeth or Priyana, if you know more about this, but I would say that like, maybe it brings the sugars out because it makes it taste that way. But I can't imagine that the sugar content, the amount of total sugar would change, whether it's cooked or whether you eat it raw, right? So if there's 10 grams of sugar, natural sugar found in a piece of fruit, if you cook it, it doesn't automatically get more sugar.
No.
It just might
Right.
come out so that you taste it more.
That's true. Actually, I kind of remember from my food science days that when you grill or do something like that, you're caramelizing the sugar in the fruit or in vegetables sometimes. There's certain vegetables, like I don't particularly like Brussels sprouts unless they are grilled or sauteed so that they caramelize. The little bit of carbohydrate that's a sugar in Brussels sprouts or fruit has more, obviously. It caramelizes, and that's what you're tasting, that caramelization. So there's no extra sugar in the fruit. It just tastes, it brings it to the surface and you taste it more. I'm a certified diabetes care and education specialist. So, the carbohydrate thing is my thing, kind of.
Yeah, unless you're really adding like honey or something on it, I wouldn't worry too much about is it gonna cause more sugar.
Yeah, I agree. Here's another question. We're getting a lot of questions. Any suggestions on how to make eating fruits and vegetables more affordable?
You could buy in season, right? So buying in season definitely helps. You can buy in season and then freeze for later when they're not in season. Or you could buy like some frozen fruits, as long as they don't have added sugars on them. You can buy them if they're not in season. You can buy them frozen, but definitely buying them when they're in season helps to lower the cost of both fruits and vegetables. You can buy in bulk also, helps to lower the cost.
Priyana, do you have any thoughts on that?
So I was saying that we moved from New York City, which I miss every single day, to a small town in Jersey. What happened is I live with my father and he gardens. Like we have this huge garden in the back. So he's doing strawberries, like grow your own fruit or vegetable as much as you can. It's organic, it's definitely cheaper and it's fresh. And you get to exercise while you're doing it too. Sure. If you have the space. If not, just do a little thing. You can grow mushrooms.
Yeah, I grow cherry tomatoes and peppers on my balcony. I live in an apartment. Even though I live in the suburbs, I live in an apartment, and that's the kind of things I do. I also try to go to the store if I can frequently, so I'm not throwing things out. A lot of times they're expensive because we don't end up using them. Maybe I'm not eating them fast enough because I'm not eating enough of them too. That's a possibility. If I end up throwing them out, that does not save me money.
You can also look for sales. So like you can always look for sales. Grocery stores always have like certain fruits and vegetables on sale. So I always look to buy, like when cauliflower is on sale, I buy 2 of them. And so we eat more cauliflower that week. If asparagus is on sale, I buy more asparagus and we eat a little bit more of that, that week. So we try to buy, you can try to buy what's on sale too.
Yep, definitely. Yes, we shop, and look for the best buys in our home too. Is it okay to eat canned or frozen fruits and vegetables?
Yeah, I think, canned fruit, definitely you want to look that it's just canned in natural juice or water, that it's not canned with light syrup or heavy syrup in it. But there's a place for for canned fruit. And fresh and frozen vegetables are better than canned, but you can look for canned vegetables. You could make sure that they don't have extra sodium added to the canned vegetables. You can rinse them also to wash away any excess sodium that's in the canned vegetables.
Yeah, I think in SNAP-Ed workshops that we often talk about that type of thing, that you can use whatever you have available, that some sort of if it's canned or frozen, or fresh, there's a place for that in everyone's diet.
Yep.
But something's better than nothing, that's for sure.
I think back to my college days when, I didn't really know how to cook all that well. I don't think I ever cooked fresh vegetables when I was in college. I don't think I even would know what to do, at that point in time, what I would do. So I think I always bought frozen vegetables and canned things like canned corn and canned beets. I always bought some canned.
Brianna, do you use canned or
Yes.
frozen vegetables and fruits?
Yes, I get very busy during the day, so I actually buy the frozen vegetables, the one without any added sauce to it. So there's no added sodium, saturated fat, calories that I don't want, and then just microwave it. I think it's just, always balance with some kind of protein so that you're gonna stay full and you're gonna, it's gonna be a little bit more balanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oops. Wait, we got a lot of questions here. I'm just gonna gotta go back up here. How are potatoes for your diet?
I love potatoes. We're a potato house. Regular baking potatoes, white potatoes, the Yukon Gold potatoes, sweet potatoes, purple potatoes, you name it. Potatoes are great. Of course, like if you have French fried potatoes, they're less healthy than regular potatoes because they're fried, but you can make sweet potatoes, you can make mashed potatoes, homemade mashed potatoes. You could air fry them to make your own homemade French fries with them. I think potatoes are great. They're high in vitamins A and C. They contain fiber in them. I think they're a great starch. They're starchy. So like I consider them a starch in my house when we eat them, but so they're a starchy vegetable, but I think they're perfectly great.
Yeah, so potatoes are high in potassium as well,
Right.
and that is really good for us. The only thing is, it is considered carbohydrate. So when you're trying to lose weight, if you have some diabetes issues, we have to watch the amount. And if that's the case, I would make sure that we don't eat another starch with the same meal. So the potato is your starch. So you balance it with the other stuff.
Yes, I agree with that. When I talk to people with diabetes, I often will say, think of that maybe as the starchy part of your plate and eat non-starchy vegetables on other parts of your plate. That's a great idea. Which is better, eating fruits and vegetables in its natural state or smoothies?
Smoothies are a great way to get in extra fruits and vegetables. And I think in a smoothie, especially if you're making the smoothie, it's the same, it's just eating the raw fruit or vegetable, really the same thing. I love, one of my favorite smoothies is I take unsweetened almond milk, fresh spinach leaves. I'll freeze fruits. I'll like freeze pineapple or freeze berries and whatever fruit I have frozen, and I put it in the blender frozen rather than having to add ice. I feel like using frozen fruit kind of gives it that nice icy chill. Sometimes I add avocado to the smoothie, a little protein powder, and it's great. A great way to sneak in some extra fruits and vegetables.
Mm-hmm. I agree. Yeah, I like spinach in a smoothie if I'm making one because it's kind of neutral. You can add a lot and it doesn't, it's not bitter, kind of.
It's not, as long as you add a fruit to it also, you end up not tasting it. And when I add a little bit of avocado to the smoothie, it makes it so creamy. It's delicious.
Yeah, I had a coworker once who had a smoothie on his desk and I was kind of teasing him. I said, why don't you just eat those vegetables and fruits? Because it was kind of not a very pretty color what he made. And he said, well, because I would never eat them otherwise. There's no way I would eat spinach or an apple. He just wasn't fond of fruits and vegetables, but I will drink them. I said, well, then go for it. That's fine. Yeah. There's a question about, will there be farmers market purchase assistance this year for seniors? And yes, there will be. You should be hearing more about that in the next few weeks. It's going to be rolled out probably in early July. Sometimes I get a different veggie in my food box from the food pantry. What's the best way to figure out what to do with it? Any thoughts on that?
You could research a recipe, right? So I would look up on the internet, first look up just what it is, learn a little bit more about it, and try to find an interesting recipe that uses that vegetable.
SNAP-Ed has some pretty good recipes for a variety. The SNAP-ED-NewYork.org, you can find a lot of recipes on there for something maybe you're not familiar with. But then again, you can also Google it.
I also find that we tend to stick to the food and all kinds of food, especially fruits and vegetables that we're used to. So maybe having a different thing that comes in the food box may be a good chance for us to try different things and for the family members as well.
I agree. I tend to stick with things I know, but I was raised that food is an adventure. So I really like trying things maybe from a country that I would like to go to, but it's maybe not in my financial plan to go there, but I could try some of the fruits and vegetables from that country. My roommate at one point my internship was from the Philippines, and she introduced me to a lot of interesting fruits and vegetables. But I agree, it's good to try different things. You never know what you're missing until you try it. Can you speak about high blood pressure in vegetables? And I think, Priyana, you were talking about potassium.
Yeah, so if somebody has a high blood pressure, so you can look up the DASH diet, DASH. You can just Google that. There's this whole website with a lot of recipes on it. It's proven, it's evidence-based, proven to lower your blood pressure along with your medication, of course. We should watch out for the sodium content that we add on to our food when we cook, but also sodium, we usually get it mostly from restaurant food and processed foods. So it's very important to increase our vegetable intake, but we also have to watch the sodium content as well.
That's true, yeah. Let's see. Someone said raw vegetables cannot be digested. What can I take with them to help their absorption?
So I've never heard that they couldn't be digested. It might be harder for your body to digest because you might not be chewing them as much, right? So like it's harder to chew raw vegetables when you think about like a carrot, for example. Like if it's well cooked, then it's softer and it takes less chews to chew it down versus like a bite of a raw carrot. You might have to do a little bit more work to chew it. But as far as it not being digested, I don't think that's necessarily true. I just think you need to make sure that you're chewing it enough.
Priyana, would you agree? Yeah.
Yeah, totally agree.
You know what, I think this question could be about the fiber in food. Sometimes like certain fibers and particularly vegetables cause some gas because they're not digested. I think this person might be talking about like the product Beano, and there are generic versions of that, help you break down some of the fibers that we as human beings don't do too well with. We don't make a lot of that enzyme that's contained in Beano to help us break down some of the fibers. But the actual vegetables, the remaining parts of the vegetable are digested.
There are some digestive enzymes I've been told in our saliva also. So again, another reason to chew more, because the more you chew, the more saliva you produce when you chew. And so then you get some of those extra enzymes there too.
That is true. Yep. Let's see. Oh, I have a correction from one of my friends. I think I said snapednewyork.org. I should have said snaped.gov. That's the source of the SNAP-Ed recipes. Good correction. Best ways to make produce last. It always seems to go bad before I can eat it.
Mm. Eat more.
Yep.
Right. I mean, you definitely can keep it in the refrigerator, right? It helps to keep it a little bit longer. I find that if I wash stuff and then put it in the fridge, it spoils quicker. So I put it in the fridge before washing it, because once you wash it and it gets like that dampness, it tends to spoil faster. So you can do that. You can certainly put them in the vegetable bins in your refrigerator, help to keep it fresh a little bit longer, and kind of do some good meal planning before you go to the grocery store. Kind of think through your week, when you're going to be home, how many meals you're going to need to cook, and kind of think through so that you don't buy excess produce that you don't need.
Mhm.
You can also think through, like, you can make and eat leftovers too. So like, instead of throwing it out, you can eat leftovers to make it
Mhm.
last a little bit longer.
Yeah, I noticed that sometimes our produce will go quickly if it's wet when we put it in the refrigerator. You know how sometimes they overspray it if you buy it at a grocery store. So sometimes I'll put it in a different kind of container, a plastic container, maybe, with the lid, and I'll put a paper towel in there. I find that if I put a paper towel in with the produce, sometimes that extra fluid, that liquid, goes into the paper towel instead of breaking down the fruit or vegetable. And my partner, he tends to not close up the container. So the scallions are like looking like this. The broccoli's kind of looking like that. Sometimes keeping it, in an airtight container, maybe with a little bit of an opening helps. I live in New York City. What is the process to receive senior nutrition assistance, like for farmers markets?
So I can answer a little bit of that. So there are farmers market coupons that are distributed at senior centers in New York City. You can go on the Department for the Aging website and find a senior center that's near you. And I believe they are I'm not exactly sure when they're doing it, but they do distribute the farmers market coupons. And as far as other nutrition assistance, you certainly can call 311 in New York City, which is the number to find assistance, but you can also look to find a senior center that's near you. And you can go, they serve meals daily at those senior centers, most of them are Monday through Friday. So you can go, you can get a hot meal. If for those that are homebound, there are home delivered meals. So there are case management agencies that work with the home delivered meal providers. Again, you can take a look on the Department for the Aging website. You can call 311 to get more information.
Yes, that's the case in the other regions of New York State too. If you contact your area office for the aging, they can give you information about where the farmers market coupons are being distributed and whether you might qualify. Yeah. Let's see. Someone says I'm pre-diabetic and my A1C is climbing. What fruits are okay for diabetics? Well, I might field that one. All fruits are okay for people with diabetes. It's just how much you eat and what other carbohydrate sources you're eating at that time. It's the overall amount of carbohydrate that you eat. It's that you eat at one time. Carbohydrate sources are not just fruits. They're also some of the starchy vegetables and grains. There's some carbohydrate in milk. So carbohydrates are broken down, all of them, into glucose at the end of digestion, and it enters our bloodstream. So we're just trying not to put in a whole lot at one time. I have diabetes and I eat all fruits. I just try not to eat the whole bag of grapes. I just try to eat a handful at a time for a snack. Or if I'm having other carbohydrates at the meal, I would have, look at the other sources on my plate and balance it. Nutrition is all about balance. It's trying to be moderate. That's a hard thing for a lot of us. But it also pays off in the weight management department if you don't eat the whole bag of grapes and you have a handful instead. Maybe a whole bag of grapes over several days. When it comes to weight management, what do you tell people about fruits and vegetables? Do you find that they're a valuable type of thing to include in your diet?
Yeah, I always tell people, definitely make half your plate fruits and vegetables. And when I say that, if they're trying to lose weight, when I say like, if you're eating vegetables, try to make half your plate non-starchy vegetables, and really like unlimited, the more of non-starchy vegetables, the more, the better, the more the merrier, really, when it comes to non-starchy vegetables, because they're really low in calories and make us feel full. And so you end up eating, when you think about like caloric density of food, when you think about like a little pat of butter and how many calories are in a little pat of butter and how many calories would be in a whole head of broccoli, you probably can eat the entire head of broccoli for either the same or less calories as a tiny little pat of butter. So definitely for weight loss with non-starchy vegetables, the more the merrier.
Yeah. What are some of the non-starchy vegetables that you encourage people to eat, Priyana?
Any green leafy vegetables, right? I like to tell people to eat in different colors. It also can prevent cancer as well. Starchy vegetable, we're talking about potatoes, sweet potatoes, coins, peas, for example. Those we can eat. I'm not saying we cannot have them, but we got to watch the amount and then just count them towards carbohydrates if you're diabetic. When it comes to weight management, I always tell people to drink at least a cup of water before each meal. A lot of times we feel that we think we're hungry, but we're really thirsty. That can fill us up, and I think the order of eating matters. So if you're trying to lose weight, I would say go for the vegetables first, even though we're eating half the plate filled with vegetables. Then we go for the protein choices, like lean protein choices, then starch would be your last things, so that you're eating more vegetables, you have room for them.
I agree with that. Yes, my partner, when he says, "Oh, I'm too full, I can't eat that broccoli." Well, he really didn't want to eat the broccoli. I always say, you're supposed to start with the vegetable first. That's the way I was raised. And, you can always mix it with something you like better too.
I do that with my kids. I fill up their plate nicely, a little bit of vegetable, a little bit of protein, a little bit of starch. And I would say 9 times out of 10, my son, who's 9, will say to me, "Can I have more chicken?" or "Can I have more macaroni and cheese?" And the 2 or 3 little broccoli florets are still sitting on his plate. And I'm like, nope, not until you finish all your broccoli. Once you finish all your broccoli, if you want more of something else, all about it. But you got to finish the vegetables first.
Yeah, I used to tell my children that too. And the more you eat them when you're a child, even if you're not crazy about them, sometimes by the time you're an adult, you actually like them. I think that's an important thing with fruits and vegetables, particularly vegetables. Sometimes they're acquired taste, like you have to try something 15 times, I've read in some research, before your mouth is really happy with it. Or tolerating it. It's kind of like, when you meet a new person, sometimes they might not be your favorite person, but the more you get to know them, the more they end up being maybe one of your favorite people. So I think, particularly vegetables are kind of like that. That's how I used to explain it to my kids. And that's the same with adults. I mean, I detested Brussels sprouts until a few years ago, and now I really enjoy them. I like them best grilled or roasted, but I'll eat them other ways too. Let's see, can you give a rundown of what to look for when buying different kinds of melons?
So if you want to eat it right away, you want to make sure that it smells good, right? So that it's not like with a cantaloupe, so that it's not like fully green. If it's like really green, then it's not going to be ripe, which is okay. You just might need to wait a couple of days before you cut into it. It shouldn't be like mushy. You should, when you touch it, it shouldn't be mushy, but it also shouldn't be like rock hard solid. It like really, really hard. So you kind of got to find that balance. You can always put it up to your nose and give it a good smell. And try to look for ones that have like are turned like that like beigey, orangey, peachy color from green.
Mhm. Good ideas there. Let's see. I've heard if you eat carbs and protein and fiber, if you eat carbs with protein and fiber, it helps slow digestion and makes it so the blood sugar spike isn't so high. Is that true?
So fiber definitely helps your body to slow down digestion.
Mhm.
And it makes you feel full. So I think balance is good. I think balance is good. Having some healthy carbohydrates, some protein, some fiber on the plate at one time is good.
Yeah, I think as a diabetes educator, I would say too that it's not so much a sugar spike that's the problem. It's when your blood sugar stays high. A little spike is one thing. It's up and it's down. If your body is able to make enough insulin to bring it down, no big deal. If it stays up, and that's usually because you had too much food, carbohydrates in particular, that's the problem. That's where it does things that aren't so great to our body. But a spike really isn't the issue. It's when it stays high. What's the best breakfast? With the one you like, I think. Just kidding.
I think cereal is pretty good. A lot of cereals are fortified with vitamins, and there's all kinds out there. However, as I was doing all my workshops, like I asked the seniors the question, when back in the days when you were younger, have you seen so much cereal with added sugar? They're like, no. So we have to be careful, especially if we like sugary coated cereals. We tend to crave for those. Just the more sugar we eat, the more our body wants it. So I would think, some cereal topped with some milk, low-fat milk, so that you get different food groups in the same meal would be good. So it's an omelet with some vegetables in there. Anyways, you can get at least, I would say, 3 food groups in the breakfast would be ideal.
I'm a big oatmeal eater in the morning. I love oatmeal. You could also get 3 food groups there. It's good in fiber. It's a healthy grain. You can put some berries, blueberries, strawberries, mix it into the oatmeal, bananas, delicious. Sometimes I'll put like a scoop of peanut butter on the side of the oatmeal. Sometimes I'll eat a scoop of cottage cheese with it, or a hard-boiled egg on the side of the oatmeal. You can mix like yogurt and other stuff into the oatmeal if you wanted to, but oatmeal also pretty inexpensive. Usually at the grocery store, you can get them in like a huge, I buy it in a huge big container, lasts a really long time.
Yeah, that's great. I'd like that idea of the 3 food groups. I mean, I think it's all about balance, trying to get in variety from different food groups. Fruits and vegetables, I find a lot of times are the ones that get, I would say, the most neglected. It is easier this time of year because there's more options with local produce and just things are more in season, particularly in the Northeast. But I think when I look at my diet, if I'm not eating enough fruits and vegetables, my diet is probably out of balance. I'll probably gain more weight because I'm eating more foods that are higher calories. And it just, I'm probably overeating too, because fruits and particularly vegetables, non-starchy vegetables, fill you up. Someone wants to know, what's your thought on fasting from 6 p.m. to 12 p.m. non-diabetic? Well, I have my answer on that, but I'll withhold it for a minute.
So I'm not a huge proponent of fasting. I don't really, everyone's bodies have different needs. I would say that everyone's bodies have different needs. Everyone gets hungry at different times, and we want to try to really look and pay attention to our hunger cues that way. But for the most part, the reason those fasts work is because you end up eating less overall, right? So if you're only eating from a certain time to a certain, only so many hours throughout the day, you end up eating less overall, like less calories. So it helps to produce weight loss in that way. But if you were to eat just that same amount of food, just spread more throughout the day, I think that is a healthier approach. You don't end up depriving your body. It's interesting to me too. Like from the hours, if you wake up at 7 a.m, from 7 to 12, you're working, you're going to school, you're busy. So it's interesting to me that I think our body needs more fuel when we're awake and active versus when we're sleeping. So I'm not a huge fan of the fast.
What about you, Brianna? What do you think of that?
Well, honestly, if you ask any dietitian, we're not too crazy about fasting, right? However, I understand why anyone would want to fast. They want to reduce their calories, or most of the time that's the reason. So if it's something that you think you can stick to for a lifetime, then that is for you. So this fasting idea, if you think you can only do it for maybe a couple months, then maybe it's not the best diet.
Yeah. Food is fuel. And I do think that if we view it as that, makes a lot more sense. It kind of answers a lot of those questions. The raw materials that we eat are what run our bodies. So we need variety of types of nutrients, and then you also need the right volume. So however you eat that correct volume, it can be stretched out, or it could be reduced the number of hours. But I do think, I know myself, I certainly feel better when I fuel myself while I'm doing my activities during the day. One of the reasons I try not to stay up too late is because I will get hungry again. If I eat at 6 p.m., for example, and I stay up till midnight, 12 a.m., after about 5 hours, I'm going to be hungry again. And I might be putting in an extra meal in there, that I don't need. So a lot of times when people tell me they're fasting in the evening, basically, I think what happens is they're just not eating that after dinner food. That has become kind of a national habit, to be honest. I don't think people ate a lot of food after dinner years ago, and now we eat. It's a very common thing to eat, that extra food in the evening. But some people, everybody's different. Like was said, sometimes people need to eat small amounts often, whatever period of time they're up. But I do think a lot of times fasting is designed to reduce your total intake, and that's just less calories. It might be a gimmick in some ways for some people. A lot of new diet type of things are that. It's to kind of get our attention, to make it sound unique. But eating variety and moderation can accomplish that goal. Sounds kind of boring, but it works. I've been pre-diabetic for about 20 years. No one has ever explained what A1C is.
That always amazes me.
Yeah, that's scary.
I have people ask me that. Yeah, it's crazy.
Would you like to field that question, Brianna, or Elise?
Sure. Well, first of all, I really want to say being a pre-diabetic and stay pre-diabetic for 20 years is amazing.
Yeah.
You didn't get to the diabetes stage. That's really, really awesome. So you're doing something right. What is A1C? A1C is basically the average blood sugar for the past 3 months. When I look into research, they say it's really, so for someone that's pre-diabetic, so the A1C is over 5.7 to 6.4. So to be real diabetic, that's over 6.5. When they check your A1C, you don't need to fast. So it's very convenient. You just get your blood work, unlike the fasting sugar that they're looking at. So I believe the newest guideline change. Most adults need to get their A1C checked. Is it 35 now? The latest one, Elizabeth? Yeah.
They've changed. A lot depends on your other risk factors too, family history, things like that. So
Yeah.
they individualize it to the person in front of them, the providers. But there are guidelines for it. Yeah.
It's also like, think about it. It's like really a good marker for like how well your blood sugar is being controlled overall, like how well you're doing. If you have diabetes, is your diabetes controlled? Like it's really that marker, because like Priyana said, it is the average. So it's kind of like, okay, you can test your blood sugar today and there can be a spike at this exact moment. That doesn't really tell us how well overall your diabetes is being controlled, where your A1C does.
That's exactly right. It gives you a bigger picture. Like I mentioned before, a spike isn't such a big deal. It's if it's staying high, if it comes right back down, it's no big deal. If it stays high, that's the bigger issue. And an A1C will give you an idea of whether that's the case. There are some things that an A1C doesn't tell you, but it does give your medical provider a pretty good picture of what's going on. What are the best ways to increase fruits and vegetable intake with high inflation on a fixed income? Thank you. Yeah, that's a challenge.
Yeah. I think it's a challenge in all areas, right? Certainly food, and then when we drill down into fruits and vegetables. But I think we touched on a little bit earlier on how to kind of save that cost, look for stuff that's on sale, always go with the fruits and veggies that are on sale, buy what's in season when you can buy in bulk and freeze. You can either cook and freeze them for later use when you can, and really look for stuff that's on sale and get creative and, try new things, be willing to try new things.
Yeah. I think a lot of the things we've discussed today, you all cover in your SNAP-Ed workshops too, which I think people should know are out there, in a lot of regions in New York State, and particularly in your area, there are workshops offered to learn more about this. Oh boy, here's some other questions. Does it help to soak potatoes in advance for diabetics?
Soaking the potatoes leaches out some of the potassium in the potatoes, not necessarily the carbohydrates in the potatoes. Right. So for diabetes in general, I don't think soaking the potatoes would do anything. Now, if you have impaired kidney function as a result of your diabetes, yes, you may have heard that you would soak the potatoes, because that's going to help to remove some of the potassium.
Right. Potassium is good for us unless we're in advanced stages of kidney disease. But yeah, that's my understanding as well. Priyana, do you have thoughts on that too? Or?
Yes, I agree with everything you guys said. Like if you're just diabetic, you don't need to soak the potatoes. It doesn't do much. And it's really soggy when you cook it. However, if you do have like probably definitely CKD, chronic kidney disease, stage 4 and 5, sometimes you may have to start watching the potassium. That's when you hear about soaking potatoes. But if you're just pre-diabetic, you don't have to worry about that. Just enjoy it in moderation.
Yes, and avoiding potassium does not prevent kidney disease. It's only that if the kidneys are unable to filter out enough potassium, that it's an issue. And your medical provider could tell you by your blood work whether that's necessary or not. Yeah. So the DASH diet actually encourages a lot of potassium, like Priyana mentioned. What foods help control arthritis? Well, I just read an article yesterday about, they did a very large study, rheumatologists who are specialists in arthritis, and they looked at all the research out there And they found that there is no clear evidence that any kind of food intervention controls arthritis. But they also said that some of the studies weren't done that well, and there's, need for better controlled studies. But I always go back to the plate. I know you guys are believers in that too. How would you explain what the plate does for you by eating according to my plate?
So it helps you to get more fruits and vegetables, right? So eating my plate, you really have to, think about making half your plates fruits and vegetables. And what that does is it helps you eat like in accordance to more of an anti-inflammatory diet, because increasing your consumption of fruits and vegetables is part of an anti-inflammatory diet. So you might think like to control arthritis, well, it might not change or improve your arthritis, but if you do have arthritis, which is an inflammatory condition, perhaps eating foods that help to reduce inflammation in the body overall could be helpful. And foods that help to reduce inflammation also help to reduce heart disease, because you're reducing inflammation everywhere in the body, not just around your heart, but around your joints and, throughout your whole body. So definitely increasing fruits and vegetables, replacing heavy, fatty, salty meats with leaner proteins and more fruits and vegetables is part of an anti-inflammatory diet, is how I would think about my plate. But there's also other things, like there are some, like turmeric is an anti-inflammatory herb and spice, and you can cook with it and you can add that. It's been shown to reduce inflammation in the body overall. So you can think about starting to cook with some different herbs and spices that could be have medicinal anti-inflammatory properties to them.
Yeah, I think when you read all the different research about many chronic diseases, it kind of boils down to that if you follow the plate as a guide, you're probably covering a lot of bases. I can say as people with diabetes, it helps control diabetes. It helps control blood pressure. So maybe we don't have all the answers yet on arthritis, but hey, I would put my money in that bucket, that the plate would probably be a good guide for arthritis for the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah, and I totally agree with all that. I think just following my plate would reduce the processed food that we tend to eat, like on the typical American diet, and also staying away from sugar sweetened beverages. A lot of times we don't realize we drink or eat more sugar, added sugar than we need, and that doesn't help with the arthritis or any joint pain.
Yeah, I think in general, we try to keep water as our main beverage and, different versions of that. Well, I'm told that our time is drawing to an end. I want to thank Priyana and Elisa for helping us today. They were truly experts in their field of nutrition and also experts in fruits and vegetables, as you can tell. So we're going to wrap up this edition of NYSOFA's SNAP-Ed Ask the Experts. Next month, we will be bringing back some experts from our nutrition educators in New York City, and we're going to talk about ways to be physically active outdoors and how to eat well when you're outdoors. So we'll be talking about that next time in July. And I also want to mention that Wendy Beckman, she is one of our NYSOFA dietitians. She's going to be doing her food demonstration. She's going to be doing huevos rancheros this month at the end of June. And that's on June 27th at 12:30. And then in July, she's going to be doing the grilled fruit. And I believe that date is July 29th. So there's a lot of good things coming up from NYSOFA. So this time went really fast. I really enjoyed talking to you both and sharing the information. And I love the questions we got. Boy, they just kept coming. Mm-hmm. I want to remind you that this event is sponsored by the United States Department of Agriculture, and they are an equal opportunity provider. So thank you again very much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye now.